Welcome back to our continued coverage of election 2020. I'm Dave Arambell, and Stephanie Thompson is going to be joining me tonight for our forum, which is going to be with the candidates for House District 60. And of course, we're bringing you these forums virtually because we just didn't have any place to really hold them in person because of public safety reasons. But Stephanie, we're looking forward to doing this tonight, and should be some interesting topics to cover in House District 60.
It'll be interesting to see what they have to stay with, what the state is facing, and how they think the state's going to address some of those issues, such as the budget shortfall that we're all seeing.
That COVID-19, we're going to talk maybe a little bit about the future of education in the state of Wyoming as well. We want to thank our sponsors, of course, Genesis Alkali and Jenner LLC, and without their help, we wouldn't be able to bring you these forums. So we hope you enjoy it. Good evening and welcome to our continued coverage of election 2020 here on Sweetwater Now. I'm Dave Arambell along with Sweetwater Now News Director Stephanie Thompson. And tonight we're going to be doing the House District 60 Forum, and we'd like to welcome our candidates tonight. We have Lindsey Travis here with us, Ted Barney, and Mike Bird. Mark Baker is also a candidate for this House seat. He is not on the Zoom meeting tonight with us, and if he happens to chime back in, we'll get him locked into the forum as well. Just a quick reminder of the rules here tonight, gang. Each candidate is going to get 3 minutes in the beginning for an opening statement, and we will time that here on our end. When we get within 10 seconds of the closing of your statement, we'll give you that sound, and then when your time is up, we'll also give you a second sound, which is this. And after the 3-minute introductions, and you can talk about anything you want, your platforms, your thoughts about issues facing the state of Wyoming, those types of things, we will get into a question session, and we'll have 5 questions for you. We'll ask you each one of you those 5 questions and give you 90 seconds to answer those questions as well. We'll keep the timer on that for you too. And then at the end of the question section, we'll give you each 2 minutes to kind of wrap it up, give your final pitch as to why you think that you'd be the best selection for the House District 60 representatives. So if you're ready to go, we'll get this thing started. We just want to mention very quickly, thank you to our sponsors, Genesis Alkali and to Jenner Wyoming LLC for making this all possible. So thank you to them as well. And if you're all ready, we'll get this started. And why don't we go ahead and have Lindsey start it off. Lindsey, we'll give you 3 minutes to make your opening statement.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Thank you to Sweetwater Now and the sponsors for making this possible. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in today to listen and learn about us as candidates, and thank you to my competitors for being on here as well tonight. I am running for Wyoming House District 60 because, quite frankly, the state's kind of in a bit of trouble right now, and I am a little bit fearful for what's going to happen to our state as we move into the future, for my kids, for our community, for everyone who's here. I am hoping to ensure a bright and vibrant future for Wyoming, and I think I'm the candidate that can do that. I am pushing policies that are people-oriented, that prioritize our people first, things such as education for our kids, services for our seniors, affordable and accessible health care, support for our small businesses that are run by our friends and our neighbors, and of course, equality for all. Unlike a lot of other people running this year, I have not lived in Wyoming my whole life. My family and I moved here 10 years ago. We came here like many people that we know for a job opportunity, and then we fell in love with the community. And we stayed. We raised our kids here, and we just completely love Wyoming. My son Spencer is a 2020 graduate of Green River High School. He'll be attending the University of Wyoming in the fall, and my daughter Lily is going to be a junior at Green River High School this fall. I want to make sure that Wyoming is a place that they want to stay when they grow up, finish college, or whatever it is their pathway is, and raise their kids here. I have a background in leadership, collaboration, advocacy. I am currently the assistant director for the Sweetwater County Library System. That job has really helped me learn a lot about government funding, a lot about working with other agencies, figuring out how to do more with less. And I think all of those skills will help me in a seat in the Wyoming House. I also worked at NowCap Services, where I advocated for people with disabilities, and I had a 12-year career in journalism. So that's pretty much my background, my career. I have a bachelor's degree in communications and political science and a master's degree in library and information sciences. And I just think that I'm a candidate who can help us move to the future. I want a future, like I said, where my kids and the kids of other Wyomingites are looking to stay here. And I think we need a lot of different voices at the table when we're making tough decisions this year. And I'm a voice that can help out. Thank you. I appreciate your vote. Feel free to contact me at lindseytravis2020@gmail.com or follow me on Facebook at Lindsey Travis for House District 60.
Okay, thank you, Lindsey, for those comments. And let's move on to Ted Barney. Ted, you have 3 minutes to make your opening statement.
Well, I would also like to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here this evening, and it's good to see Dave and Stephanie again. I was born in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and have lived in Green River, Wyoming my entire life, except when I was off in college and in the military. I know Green River, Wyoming. I know the people of Green River, Wyoming. I want to represent the people of Green River, Wyoming. When I went to college, I ended up with a degree in psychology and history and theology. I am currently the service officer for the American Legion in Green River, as well as the chaplain for the American Legion in Green River. After college, I came back here during one of our bus cycles, worked for minimum wage, and decided it was better to join the Army. So I went into military intelligence, traveled overseas, spent time in Germany and Japan working, collecting intelligence. And during that time period, I managed to pick up 6 foreign languages in the 9 years that I was in. So I have a very diverse background in education and just in general knowledge of the world and how events work. When I was going to college, it took me 7 years to get my 4-year degree because I basically had to earn the money to complete that 4-year degree. So I would take time off, work here primarily for the laborers union, but I worked out at the Jim Bridger power plant maintenance. I worked at Black Butte Coal. I helped build some of the buildings out at the Trona mines. And I also worked for Mountain Fuel Supply Company doing pipeline work. As well, I also worked on the Pathfinder pipeline, which is the 36-inch natural gas pipeline that runs from this part of the world back east. So I have a diverse knowledge of the various economical sources of income here in Sweetwater County. The reason I'm running is because some things need to be fixed in the state of Wyoming. We have been operating under this boom and bust cycle for far too long. And everybody during the boom years wants to ignore the fact there's going to be another bust year, while also ignoring emerging technology and ideas. And even though one hand kind of washes the other, like over at Naughton Plant in Kemmer, where they switch from coal-fired to natural gas-fired, we have jobs here, locally that people in Green River work in both of those fields. Some of them lost their jobs, others gained jobs. But we need to look at the future of Wyoming and diversification. And that's what I want to mainly work on. I have some great ideas, some short-term and long-term ideas for Green River and Sweetwater County. So I would appreciate your vote, especially on August 18th and then again on November 3rd. Thank you very much.
All right, Ted, thank you for those comments. And now we'll move on to candidate Mike Bird. Mike, you have 3 minutes to make your opening statement.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for doing this. It's kind of cool technology. It's unfortunate we have to do these things because of the coronavirus and things like that. But anyway, enough about that. I pretty much grew up in Green River. I lived here since I was 9 years old. My dad was a road construction guy, and my stepdad was an iron worker. And they both were very influential in me growing up. I'd spend the summers with my dad, and I'd come back to Green River after my parents got divorced and go to school here, hang out with my friends. I remember the town when it was just a little town of 3,400, and where McDonald's was at, it used to be a pipe yard, and we'd play in those pipes because that was about all we had to play with. I mean, it's what they've done in the city is really cool. I mean, you got the skateboard park, the bike parks, the green belt walkways, a lot of really neat stuff for kids to play with. The rec center, we had a construction tire and a set of swings at the island, so it was fun. But I've got a history of volunteering in this town. When my boys got a little bit older, and my daughter too, she was the oldest, she started playing softball, and I did some umpiring there. Well, then I moved into coaching the boys in baseball, and I did that with my youngest one all the way up through American Legion, the 16 to 19-year-olds. Traveled all over the state and a little bit to Colorado. Had a good time with them. I stayed involved with that for a little over 20 years. I umpired and refereed high school football. Well, I didn't do the varsity. I did AV and a lot of middle school football. Been involved a little wider than that. I was on Sweetwater United Way board of directors for 4 years, which was very enlightening. I mean, we don't realize when we work at one of the Trona mines that we have it really well off. We have good paying jobs out there. And I work at Genesis right now. It used to be FMC, and our union contracts give us a lot of extra income for us to have a good time with. After the boys and everything got out of baseball, I started lobbying a lot down in Cheyenne for workers' issues, worker safety issues, pay issues, those type of things. Spent a lot of time with the legislature down there. Made a few friends. Probably got an enemy or two that don't like it when they see my face, but that's life. And then when the Jonah Field happened, and we saw what happened to the deer herd there on the Jonah area when they couldn't get to their winter grounds, depending on which number you list to, between 40 and 72% of those deer died. We did not understand, like we do now, like we have in the last few years, the importance of those winter ranges for those deer, especially the deer. So I got involved with lobbying for that.
Your time is up, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the bell.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sometimes it's a little faded, so I apologize for that. If you don't hear the bell, we'll step in at the allotted time and let you know.
All right.
But thank you so much for your comments. And now we're going to move on to the questions section. And again, just to remind you, we have 5 questions for all of you to answer, and we're going to give you 90 seconds each to answer each question. So we'll let Stephanie get this thing started.
So we're going to have Mike. I'm actually going to have you start first. And our first question is actually sort of a 2-part question. So what's the biggest issue facing the state of Wyoming, and what are your ideas about handling the budget shortfall?
Wow. Yeah. Just throw me a softball right on. Well, the biggest issue is obviously the deficit that we're facing in our, the budget for the state of Wyoming. What is it? $1.5 billion? That's a number that's really hard for me to wrap my head around. And I know that the governor wants to cut a lot of things and look at programs, and we probably should cut some things, especially where we have duplicity in services and those kind of things. One thing I would not want to see enacted, I mean, there's talk of taxing this or taxing that, and yeah, we may have to do some of that somewhere in some places. But the last thing I would want to see taxed is groceries. People can make choices on a whole lot of other things, but it doesn't matter what you do, what your income level is, you have to eat. And so there was no way I could support a food tax. I think that I agree with the governor on taking it on to the states of, I believe it's Washington, that doesn't want to let coal be shipped overseas from their ports. Personally, I think that, coal's going downhill in our country because we have alternative sources of energy, but other countries don't have that. So if they are going to burn coal, they should burn good Wyoming clean coal. And I think that managing to do that would provide or maintain some jobs and help us a little bit along with the downturn in that industry.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Ted, same question. What's the biggest issue facing the state of Wyoming, and what are your ideas about handling the budget shortfall?
Well, Mike's right. It's the budget itself. That's the biggest thing facing the state of Wyoming right now. And as I mentioned in my opening, I have a short-term and a long-term plan for that. Prior to this current budget deficit, tourism in Wyoming was the number 3 source of income in the state. It's currently at number 2. What we need to do is promote more tourism. The simple solution I have is in one of the state statutes in the motor vehicle is to add 5 words to one of the statutes, and it's on the unlicensed use of the use of unlicensed off-road vehicles. Currently, Wyoming state statute says that you cannot operate them on state roads. We addressed this at the Green River City Council and found out that no, we can't. What we would like to do is designate routes of travel in the cities so people could have more opportunity to do off-road tourism in Wyoming. It's been very successful in some of the other Mountain West states around us. And all we need to do is add 5 words to one statute, and those 5 words are unless authorized by municipal ordinance. That would allow each and every municipality in Wyoming to make up its own mind on the increase in tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And finally, Lindsay, same question. What's the biggest issue facing the state of Wyoming, and what are your ideas about handling the budget shortfall?
I agree that the budget is the biggest issue right now facing the state of Wyoming. More than $1 billion, that's just unprecedented, and it's scary, and it's hard to look at all the things that we're currently cutting. Gutting the budget is not the answer. That's obviously we have to make some cuts, but we have to be really creative and look at all the options that are on the table. There's not just one save all. So we have to look at not only cutting, but we can consolidate different departments. We can try to increase tourism. It's a bit hard right now during the COVID era, but it's still something that we can do. But we do probably have to look at our tax structure and figure out a way to generate revenue in that respect. Diversifying the economy will help as well. However, that takes a while. It's not going to happen overnight. So we have to look at things that might work a little faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. For the next question, we'll move on. We'll have Ted start first. And this question is, share your thoughts on the Occidental land purchase being considered by the state of Wyoming and whether or not you feel this is a good or bad idea.
This is one of those undecided opinions that I currently have. If they're purchasing it just to save the land for nothing more than petroleum and coal extraction, let somebody else do it. However, I see in purchasing the land and all the mineral rights, the opportunity to find out how much lithium is actually out by the Jim Bridger power plant. Lithium is a key component to building solar batteries. Currently, we import all of it to the United States. It is deep. It would require brine mining out there, but we don't know how extensive the field is. So if the state of Wyoming has the mineral property rights to that, we can use that as leverage to lure a lithium mining corporation in here to do a brine mine to employ our miners. So that is just one of the areas that I would like to concentrate on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Lindsay, I'm going to ask you the same question. Share your thoughts on the Occidental land purchase being considered by the state of Wyoming and whether you think this is a good or bad idea for the state.
I'm also undecided on this. I feel there wasn't enough transparency when the decision to bid on it came out. It all really depends on what the end goal is. If it's there to boost our portfolio and help make money, I can see it as being a good purchase, but like I said, it depends on how it all plays out in the end.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, Same question. Share your thoughts on the accidental land purchase being considered by the state of Wyoming and whether you think this is a good or bad idea.
Well, very much like my two counterparts, I wish I had more information on it. I tend to lean toward trusting those people that they are making the right decision, because it's a huge investment. I think that yeah, the lithium, if it's what they say may be out there, it could really be a boon to Wyoming. And if the state of Wyoming owns that, um, with the mining that would happen out there, and Ted's right, it would be an in situ or brine, whatever you want to call it, mining. It'd have very little surface disturbance, very much like our uranium mining. But I think that we could make a lot. The state of Wyoming could make a lot of money off that. It would provide good jobs, good steady jobs for quite a number of years, as I understand. And I would back it. I would like to have more information, to be honest, to feel 100% about it. But my inclination at this point is to back it.
All right, thank you. This time we'll have Lindsay start first. Former House District 60 Representative John Freeman was a big advocate for education while in the state legislature. What are your thoughts about the future of education in Wyoming, and where does it stand in terms of a budget priority?
I think education always needs to be a budget priority. We are set up, we've been set up pretty well here in our state, and with the Wyoming Constitution supporting education, I think that we have a priority and an obligation to make sure that we are funding education very well. I feel my kids have received a great education here in Green River, and I think that the funding sources that we have helped. So we need to make sure that they stay strong. I, especially right now, worry about the future of education and the future of funding. Right now, we're looking at teachers who have to completely reorganize their whole plan for education this year. They're putting their jobs and they're putting their lives on the line to educate our kids this year. And they had, in the last semester, had to just quickly switch from one format to another. I think that deserves support, and we need to listen to what our educators need and what they want, and help push education forward and give our kids the leg up that they need.
Thank you, Lindsay. Ted, I'm going to have you answer next. Former House District 60 Representative John Freeman was a big advocate for education while in the state legislature. What are your thoughts about the future of education in Wyoming, and where does it stand in terms of budget priority?
Well, John and I are good friends. We used to be coaches together in soccer here in Green River for the Green River Spurs. We coached the same teams. Our kids grew up together. I believe education is one of the most important factors in a child's development and also in an adult's development. The day that I can no longer learn is the day I no longer want to live. Education is primary to success in anything. And it, as Lindsay said, the state constitution says we have to fund it, and it has to be a priority. The other problem we're having in my talks with the Wyoming education system is that the enrollment for teachers at the University of Wyoming has severely dropped over the last few years. We need to also address attracting new teachers, pay them what they're worth, and educate all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And finally, Mike, same question. Former House District 60 Representative John Freeman was a big advocate for education while in the state legislature. What are your thoughts about the future of education in Wyoming, and where does it stand in terms of budget priority?
Yes, and I agree with both the people before me, Lindsay and Ted. This is a no-brainer. We have to educate our kids. I mean, they to give them anything short of the best we can would be a crime against them. We need to give them a good start. I talked with the WEA also, and I did not know there were as many vocational opportunities as there are for kids, but I still think we can improve on that, because not everyone's bound for college. A lot of people just want to go out into learn a skill or go into a trade, and perhaps we can incorporate more classes with the local colleges to give them a little boost on that. But education, no, we should not cut any facets of education. We need to pay the teachers a good salary to keep quality people here. If we start scrimping on that, we'll start losing the quality educators we have.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We're going to move on to our last couple of questions here. And we've been, of course, focusing quite a bit here on the budget. And this question's really going to be no different. Would you be in favor of a state income tax to provide relief for the budget shortfall? And please explain your thoughts about this idea. And Ted, we'll go ahead and start with you first on this one.
Well, the answer is no. One of the things I've always prided myself as being a Wyoming native is we don't have an income tax here. We're one of only, I believe, 7 states that doesn't have a state income tax. I want to keep it that way. I think it's our heritage. I don't see the need for it. I think we can raise the money by alternative means. For instance, the quarterly report just came out, and because of sales tax both in-state and online, we actually, instead of the $750,000 shortfall for this quarter, $750 million, excuse me, it was only $650 million, because there's 40,000 people going to Jackson every week to go see Yellowstone. These things are still happening. We just need to increase those numbers. We can utilize that money, and we don't need to tax the hardworking people of Wyoming in doing so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Mike, you're up next. Same question. Would you be in favor of a state income tax to provide relief for the budget shortfall? And please explain your thoughts about this idea.
Yeah, I would hate to see a state income tax. I'm exactly the same place Ted is. It's nice to have a state fill out your income taxes with the feds and not have to check that box where it says state income tax. I think that with the work that the executive branch of the state is trying to do, and then the judicial branch, I mean, I wish I had more thoughts on it. I wish I had more experience with it, but I am willing to listen and learn, obviously. I would hate to see that happen. I really would. People pay a lot in taxes as it is. I think when you look at that, it what is it? Takes till the third or fourth month of the year to get your taxes paid for that you pay for throughout the year. There are other means. There's a lodging tax. I think that with the tourism and recreational opportunities we have in this state, we need to perhaps let more people know about those. The longer they hang around, the more restaurants they'll have a meal in, the more gas they'll purchase, and maybe a beer or two. So at this point, I'm opposed to a state income tax.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We appreciate those comments. And finally, Lindsay, this question: in the wake of the anticipated budget shortfall, would you be in favor of a state income tax to provide relief for that shortfall? And please explain your thoughts about this idea.
I would prefer not to have a state income tax, just like the two before me said. But unfortunately, we may have to look at all the options that are available out there. I think once we have everything out there and compare it side by side and see exactly how much things can cover, that's a better time to say yes or no to a state income tax. I do think that we can tax things like tourism. That would be another easier way to more popular, let's just say that popular way to raise some income for the state. We could look at the sales tax structure. We could look at perhaps taxing things like big box stores instead of not taxing them. There's other options out there before the state income tax, and I think that needs to be lower on the priority of things to look at.
Okay, thank you. And our final question tonight, and we'll go ahead and start with Mike on this one. Mike, how can the state best spend the $1.25 billion given to Wyoming through the CARES Act?
Wow. I think that the first thing we need to do is take care of people that have been unemployed at no fault of their own through this thing, whether it be not the grocery workers, they're the only ones that are. But restaurant people, bar managers, bar workers, um, the library people. I don't know how many they're doing, but a lot of people are out of work, and I think that if we take care of them first, get them back on their feet, they're going to spend that money right away because they need things. They need food. They need to catch up on their rent or their home payments, and they need to buy school clothes for their kids that's coming up. Hopefully they'll be back in school. Hopefully we can send them there safely. But look at that, and then focus next on small businesses. Small business has been taking a beating on this, not just in our state, but in the entire country. Look at relief on those people too. They're going under, and if the small businesses go under, along with that go the jobs too. So that'd be my first goals is the working man, working women of this state, the small business owners, and then if there's anything left over, we can branch out to middle-sized ones and then into perhaps corporations. But I think the corporations have the wherewithal to fall back on the reserve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And now we'll move over to Lindsay with the same question. How can the state best spend the $1.25 billion given to Wyoming through the CARES Act, Lindsay?
I agree that we need to be helping the people who are hurting the most within our state. The small business owners, they support our towns. They bring people here. They support families and live in our communities. Those are the people who really need the help the most. Anybody who's out of a job. I like the idea that was just recently pitched to help out students at the University of Wyoming with tuition. Right now, the enrollment for the University of Wyoming is down because people can't afford to go because of the economic situation right now. So that would be something that would help out people who are hurting right now and could provide a future for some of our kids. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Ted. Ted, once again, I'll restate the question. How can the state best spend the $1.25 billion given to Wyoming through the CARES Act?
Well, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon here and say the people. It's a no-brainer. This COVID pandemic, I know businesses here in Green River that have closed and have had to look for a new idea. The Bird's Nest, for instance, 11 people lost their jobs. Those people had children to feed. I think we need to continue to educate the people of Wyoming in just what federal opportunities are available, what they can apply for, and how can it benefit their unemployed workers. Because there are programs where, for instance, at the American Legion, we only have one employee, everybody else is volunteer. But we signed up for the assistance, and basically federal funds are paying that employee's wage through this pandemic with the federal funds. We need to educate our people on how to do this, how to take care of their people, and assist them in doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates, for your insights there on the 5 questions. And now we're going to move on to the last part of our forum, and Stephanie will restate what we're going to be doing here.
Sure. So each of you will be given 2 minutes to give us your final pitch. And basically, you're going to be answering, why should the people of House District 60 elect you to be their next representative? And let's start with Lindsay first this time.
All right. The people of Wyoming House District 60 should elect me as their next legislator, because I provide a different voice to the mix when it comes to the state house. I still have a child in school, which gives me a different perspective when it comes to some of the funding. I have a student who's going to go off to college, also gives me a different perspective. I also have the leadership and collaboration and advocacy skills to really help out the state and make a difference and work to find answers. As the assistant director at the library system, I have been tasked with trying to do more with less for the past several years, and I've been very successful at that. We have been able to work with, just think creatively to come up with new ways to provide services without having to spend more money. And I think all of those attributes will help in the State House. So I appreciate your vote. Please feel free to reach out to me at lindseytravis2020@gmail and follow me on Facebook. Thanks.
Thank you. And Ted, why should the people of House District 60 elect you to be their next representative?
Because I'm passionate about Green River, and I'll be representing Green River. I grew up in Green River. I would just ask the voters of House District 60, if you don't know me, ask one of your friends if they do, and follow their advice. If they say don't vote for Ted, don't vote for Ted. If they say vote for Ted, vote for Ted. I'll be happy with that. I've spent the last 20 years of my life working day in and day out with state statutes, working for the Public Defender's Office as their investigator. I understand state statutes. I understand how to read them. I understand how to modify them. The 9 years of my life that I spent as a face-to-face intelligence collector for the United States government, my job was to talk people into committing treason against their homeland. I know how to communicate. I know how to motivate. I know how to get things done. And so if you want somebody that will represent Green River, Wyoming in Cheyenne, vote for Ted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And finally, Mike, you got 2 minutes for your final pitch on why House District 60 people should vote for you for the next representative.
Okay, thank you. I got out of high school. I was 18 years. I graduated early like a dummy, but I got out and then I went straight into an ironworking job as an ironworking apprentice. And I've been a working man ever since then. I worked the steel for a couple years, worked for the railroad for a little while. I was single and got in an argument with my boss one day and ended up doing road construction the next day. You know, you can do that when you're single. But I got married, raised 3 kids. Thanks to those good wages I have out there at that trona mine. I've been there for 43 years, worked 39 years of that underground. So I've built my home here in Green River. It's always been my home. And I know what it's like to raise a family with working class wages, and there's not a damn thing wrong with that. I'm proud to be a average working man. I've lobbied in Washington, D.C. for trona miners in 2005. I lobbied in Washington, D.C. on 2 other occasions for our wildlife interests. And I've been to Cheyenne and I've ruffled feathers down there as a lobbyist. And I don't mind doing it as a debater on the other side of the aisle, or perhaps holding hands with someone from the other side of the aisle. So I've been involved. This is my town. I love this town. I took a little drive around it just to cruise a couple nights ago, and this is a pretty little town we have. People are proud of it. They have nice yards. They have nice cars. I love this town, and I'd love to be their voice in Cheyenne. And I have a Facebook site. And also, if you want to get a hold of me, you can call me at 871-6340. And I'd love to represent the workers of Wyoming. Thank you.
All right, that's going to bring us to the end of tonight's forum. We graciously thank all of the candidates who joined us tonight, Lindsey Travis, Ted Barney, and Mike Bird. Thanks, folks, for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in tonight's forum. Mark Baker is also running for this seat. And if you have any questions for any of the candidates, we just encourage you to go to sweetwaternow.com. We actually have a link right there on our homepage. It's our Election 2020 site. That page is on our site, rather. And click on that, find these candidates, and you can get a hold of them. They've all mentioned their contact points here tonight during the forum. But if you have any questions that you'd like to share with them, please go ahead and do that. And we want to thank our community leaders, Jenner Wyoming and Genesis Alkali, whose sponsorships are making all of these forums possible. And candidates, thank you so much, and good luck with your campaigns.